Today we have a story of someone who messed up and got convinced by a McDonald's worker that they had passed on into the afterlife. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, our next story is, today I messed up by making my girlfriend think I was cheating on her when I was actually planning a surprise. Alright, this actually happened over the weekend and I'm still a bit shaken and relieved writing this. So my girlfriend, 25-year-old female, and I, 26-year-old male, have been together 3 years, and I wanted to do something really special for her birthday coming up. I decided that I would plan a surprise party and propose to her at the party in front of our friends and family. Ambitious, I know. The past few weeks, I've been sneaking around organizing everything. I bought a ring, conspired with her best friend, and even had secret calls with her parents to get their blessing. I was so excited and I was sure it would be an epic surprise. The freak-up began with all the secretive behavior this required. I'm usually an open book, but suddenly I'm hiding my phone, texting people behind her back, and making up lame excuses to duck out of the house. Need to run an errand, bye. I thought I was being slick to avoid spoiling the surprise. In reality, I was acting sketchy as heck. Her best friend, who was helping me plan, messaged me something like, "Can't wait to see you go over the final details," while my girlfriend was borrowing my phone to play a song. I snatched the phone back so fast and pretended it was a work message. Mistake. At that point, I officially raised every suspicious red flag possible. I could feel her side-eyeing me the rest of the night. Over the next few days, I noticed my girlfriend getting quiet and anxious. I tried to play it cool, but I was often rushing off to take calls from the party venue, or whispering to her friend about party prep. She started asking me strange questions like, "Everything okay between us?" And I just nervously laughed it off, which only made me look guiltier. I was this close to the finish line, so I figured it would be fine once I pulled off the surprise, if I could avoid looking like a cheating jerk for 2 more days. Well, last Friday, it all came crashing down. I came home and found my girlfriend in tears holding my iPad. Pro tip, if you have Apple devices, they all get your iMessages. She had seen some of my message exchanges with her best friend about the plan and keeping it secret. One out-of-context line from me said, "I can't wait to finally do this. It's so hard to keep lying to girlfriend." I meant lying to her about why I was busy, but oh my god. Out of context, it looked bad. She confronted me sobbing, thinking I was having an affair with her best friend or something. She was shaking, my heart absolutely dropped into my stomach, and I started panicking trying to explain, "It's not what you think." It took me a solid minute to get her to stop yelling and listen. I was literally on my knees, not exactly how I planned this, trying to calm her down and tell her the truth. I said, "I swear, I was lying because I'm planning a surprise for you. Please just open that closet." She was confused and still sniffle crying and opened the closet where I'd hid the birthday gift bag with the ring box inside. She turned back to me and I just blurted out everything. The party, the proposal, how her friend and parents were in on it, and that I'm an idiot. She went from angry crying to shocked crying, and finally started happy crying once it clicked. I ended up officially proposing to her right then and there on our living room floor, because why not at that point? Not the grand romantic tableau I envisioned, but the ring made it onto her finger. She said yes, through lots of tears and a half laugh at how absurd the whole situation was. We just sat on the floor hugging each other, both kind of trembling, her from the emotional roller coaster I put her on, and me from narrowly avoiding complete disaster. Later on, when things calmed down, she did kind of scold me. "You dummy, I really thought you were cheating. You scared me." Fair. I feel like a total jerk for putting her through that. We also had a laugh when she realized her best friend's winking texts were about cake and decorations, not secret hookups. In the end, we decided to still go through with the birthday party that night and act like the proposal was a surprise in front of our friends. It was awkwardly hilarious because everyone but her thought that she was genuinely surprised when I got down on one knee. They had no idea she'd found me out beforehand. We haven't told that part of the story to our families yet. That little fiasco is just between us. And, well, now the internet. Could the proposal have gone better? Absolutely, but still, I feel like this is a very, very memorable and in a way kind of like weirdly happy proposal. Like, I don't know if it's possible to top that relief OP's partner must have been feeling in that moment. Plus, it's a little bit more intimate, it's just you two. To me, I thought it worked out pretty darn well, even despite the fact that it was completely botched. Roselle LS commented, "My husband of 13 years had this giant fancy proposal on this giant Ferris wheel planned for on my birthday that everyone else knew about, but got too excited and proposed to me mid-Star Trek episode the day before. It's a great and perfect story that's very precious to me. Hopefully this will become a precious memory to her too." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy stories of how Redditors crazily messed up, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, today I messed up by joking about decompression chambers for 10 plus years. For 10 plus years, I've joked my wife has a decompression chamber because she basically never farts or even sneezes in front of me. It was almost weekly that I would comment that not everyone has a decompression chamber when she would comment about a fart or a burp. Fast forward to last night when we were out with family and others. We were eating spicy pizza and other stuff that could upset stomachs or cause gas. My wife turns to me. "After all that, the lady should probably spend some time in the gas chambers," she said. "What?" I said, absolutely bewildered by what was said. "You know, the gas chamber that you say all women need," she said. Now everything is quiet and people are definitely listening to us. "You mean decompression chambers? That old joke I always say?" I said, making sure to emphasize joke because I definitely look like I hunt Bigfoot on the weekends and have controversial opinions. "Oh yeah, that's not gas chamber. I don't know why I was thinking that," she said, now noticing that everyone was definitely listening to this exchange. We ended up getting weird looks for the rest of the hour we were there, and I don't know if people believed it was a poorly remembered joke or not. I think I'll refrain from going out for a while. I don't know why, but I feel like this exchange is like straight out of a movie where a robot comes to life, or an alien visits the earth and they have like no idea of like human phrases or sayings, and they just say something so wildly out of pocket, not realizing that they made a mistake. It is wild to say all of these pizza-eating ladies should probably spend some time in the gas chambers. Raid My Tomb BB commented, "You mean your wife freaked up misremembering a joke you repeat weekly? If this happened with my friends, everyone would have died laughing," after explaining the joke. Barbacore commented, "I found that some of my best crying laughing with my friends' moments are someone else's horrific embarrassing mistake. I'm glad I have found my people." Our next story is, today I messed up by giving my friends twice-baked brownies. Hey all, I'm 17 and a senior in high school. I've been dog sitting for a relative for the past week, and one of the things I've been doing to pass the time is baking. Bear in mind that I'm an extreme amateur in the kitchen. I've barely touched an oven, so most of my recipes have been with an air fryer. This is important. Thursday night, I made a batch of brownies, but because I'm a jerk, I took them out of the air fryer after 10 minutes and had nothing but hot batter on a baking sheet. I didn't want to waste the box, so I put them back in the air fryer for another 30. After letting them cool in the freezer overnight, I had a couple for breakfast and bagged up the rest for my friends. I wrote that they were twice-baked brownies on the bags because I thought it had a nice ring to it and I did have to bake them twice. That was freak up number 2. At school, I gave out like 10 bags with twice-baked brownies written on the side, completely oblivious to the implications of that statement. Everything was going okay until an SRO, basically a cop that patrols American high school campuses, had to pull me aside assuming I was dealing pot brownies. I explained myself the best I could and let him sniff a sample of the bag. He didn't detect weed but left me off with a warning saying I shouldn't go down that path, threatening to take me to the office if I did it again. My school has a zero-tolerance drug policy and even suspicion of drug possession can get you expelled. Bear in mind, I'm a straight-A student with perfect attendance, so that made me laugh. "Listen, kid, don't do it, not even once. But, if you happen to do so again, just let me know. I just really like brownies." Saberleaf commented, "I don't think either of those is a freak up, at least not by you. It's normal to let something bake again when it's not done, and calling something twice baked could refer to the recipe or your fun anecdote. Who freaked up is your school staff for sending a drug check over baked goods and giving you a warning for not finding anything." Our next story is, today I messed up by sending the worst possible accidental text to my boss. So today at work, I was stuck in a painfully long meeting. You know the kind, where everyone nods, pretends to take notes, and one guy, let's call him Bob, keeps saying, "Let's circle back on that." Bored out of my mind, I decided to text my girlfriend. If Bob says circle back one more time, I'm gonna launch myself out the window. But instead of sending it to my girlfriend, I sent it to Bob. The moment I hit send, my soul left my body. I stared at my phone in pure horror. Before I could even attempt damage control, Bob replied, "Let's circle back on that." I have never known fear like this. Do I laugh? Do I quit my job and change my identity? The cherry on top? As the meeting ended, Bob walked past my desk, leaned in, and whispered, "You should really keep your windows closed." Today I messed up, or did Bob just win the internet? All I know is, if I was working in that place, I would be keeping away from the windows. In a situation like this, is this one where you kind of like consider going to HR, or do you accept that he completely one-upped you, hope that it's a joke and he's not taking it personally, and just let it be? Fat Track Star commented, "I work night shift at a manufacturing plant. At night it's just my crew I'm over, me and my boss. My boss might just be the laziest person alive. He comes in and goes to his office and doesn't leave the office all night. He watches YouTube videos and Netflix the entire time he's at work. Last week, one of the higher-ups at the plant came in early in the morning to oversee a new process we were doing, so of course, my boss puts on his white coat and walks around checking things out, trying to make it look like he does it every night. We've got 24 people on the third shift, and some of them have been there 6 months and never even seen my boss until then. He saw one guy doing something and started telling him to do it a different way, even though what he was doing was okay, and he's been doing it that way since he started here. I could tell the guy was getting frustrated, and he's one of the better workers I have, so I texted him, "Just say okay, tomorrow he'll be back in the office and you won't see him anymore." I pretty quickly got a text back that said, "I hope so." That's when I realized I'd sent the text to my boss, not the guy he was talking to. My boss got the text and assumed I was sending it to him, talking about the guy that had came in to oversee the new process. The next day at home, my boss sent me a text he says was meant for his wife on 2 separate occasions. I don't know if he truly texted me by accident, or if that was his way of telling me he knew I had texted the wrong person the night before. Our next story is, today I messed up by getting Bali belly, which could have been avoided if we weren't so stupid. Mandatory this didn't happen today, ETA today, forgot to add it before, been a few weeks at this point. I visited Bali, first international trip ever, yay, and was so excited. I scoured the r/Bali subreddit here for all of the advice and heard Bali belly a lot. But coming from a third world country myself, and being a doctor, I wasn't too worried. I took all the meds one might need and thought I'm good to go. Well, the first few days were amazing. We ate at local warongs, taking care of our hand hygiene and noticing how hygienic the staff were, etc., and we were doing fine. The day before we had a shift base from Ubud to Sanur, 2 hours away for the last leg of our trip, we had an amazing batik class in rice paddies and were just roaming around when my travel buddy started feeling really tired. Then he started having cramps in his tummy. I was having a bit of loose motion since the morning but wasn't too worried because I kind of sort of have IBS. Not diagnosed properly, but pretty sure I have it. Suddenly he goes, "I feel dizzy, please let's just go back to the hostel," and then proceeded to have diarrhea, and by midnight, a fever of 102.8 degrees Fahrenheit. He spent the whole night having chills and worried that we may have to go to the emergency room if he was vomiting. By then, I also had looser motions that definitely weren't good old IBS that I know so well, and a slight fever. After a night of praying that we don't puke, we went to a hospital on recommendation of the homestay owner we stayed at before the hostel, and he was kind enough to take us there, and it was expensive, but thankfully we had insurance. Hoping for the claim to come through or we're dead. I had antibiotics and all the meds needed for Bali belly, but unfortunately fever just wouldn't go down with paracetamol, Tylenol, tablets, so we had to get an IV infusion for my travel buddy. I puked twice on the way from the hospital in Ubud to Sanur. We couldn't enjoy Tanalat or Sanur or do any water sports because of this. Barely made it to Uluwatu Temple. We were thinking that this is stupid, why did we get sick more than a week into our trip and not before, what went wrong, etc. Because we took all precautions, including drinking bottled water only, even at homestays and hotels. Then it hit us how we are the ones who freaked up and entirely responsible for our sickness. The day before we got sick, we had gone on a waterfall tour. we went to Pura Tirtha Impul Temple. This is a temple with a holy spring and a purification ritual. Being Hindu culturally, atheists religiously, we weren't too passionate about temples, but we love water and this was so interesting, so we did it. You basically have to wash your head, face, hair, and rinse your mouth thrice, and then drink a gulp of water from holy spring water coming through a statue of stone. You have to repeat this procedure with around a dozen statues. So immersed, we were buffoons in this fun ritual with cool water on a hot day and fish fluttering by our feet that we really did take the gulps of water. I mean, we try to take just a sip at each statue because it is unfiltered water after all, but what our brains didn't process is that 12 sips is enough to give you viral or bacterial or protozoal load enough to cause diarrhea. So yeah, basically we were stupid enough to drink spring water and everyone we told afterwards in Bali, including locals there, were like, oh gosh, you shouldn't have. Our tummies are used to the water, but you guys? Yeah, we guys, being dumb tourists. I'm a filthy American that really doesn't even look into like traveling all that much, but I've heard of Bali Belly before. I mean, just going to a place like that with a reputation like that, I know myself well enough to know that I'm enough of a germaphobe that there's no way I would drink from that spring water. Shoot, I probably wouldn't even do it in the United States where people say, oh, trust us, it's safe. Maybe if I'm out there like Bear Grylls-ing it and I try to follow the basic running water is usually good water kind of thing, but I'll even go and gladly drink the Dasani bottle before willingly choosing to drink the running spring water. Phone Freak commented, being currently in Bali right now and planning to visit Tirtha Impul, thank you for your service. Hey, maybe that's how the purification works? OP responded commenting, definite. Enjoy the ritual, it's really fun, but just don't drink or rinse your mouth. You can do the rest of the steps. And once you're there, I'm sure you'll visit the coffee plantations too. We weren't into luwak because we don't like the idea of cat poop coca beans, but the ginseng and coconut coffees they sell are so good. Do buy them, man. I don't know any brands, but we got from the plantation we visited and regret not buying more because I can't find them in my country that taste so good and are so cheap. Our next story is, today I messed up by thinking I was dead after getting my shot and causing a McDonald's worker to think I was insane. I stood in queue in the cruel and unusual March heat for 2 hours to receive my vaccine shot. After feeling no side effects whatsoever, I decided to go to the McDonald's near the vaccination site. I stood in front of the one service person in there silently for a bit when she looked up and asked me, "You are dead?" I thought I must have misheard. This is the chaos that then ensued. I said, "Huh?" The service person replied, "You are dead?" I said, "Excuse me?" They say, "You are dead?" Come again? "You are dead?" I said, "No, why would you think that of me?" She then went to the cash register and said in a thick West African accent, "Can I take your order?" An hour later, I got back to the hotel and it dawned on me what had happened. The poor woman had simply asked me over and over again if I had ordered. "You are dead?" I was just too woozy from the heat to really filter through the accent. It sounded exactly like, "You are dead?" She must have thought me a complete imbecile. On the plus side, I'm not dead. It's crazy because all throughout this post I was really confused as to why OP's hearing this and why this exchange is going on, and then as soon as OP explained the accent, I heard it perfectly in my head. OP was just having one of those embarrassingly slow days. Air commented, "I had a blood test the other day and let them know that I'm prone to passing out, so I got to lay down for it, which was nice. Went smooth, actually felt fine for the first time. So the lady leaves and I stand up, get one arm in my jacket, and uh-oh, there's that feeling. So I sat down, sweated profusely while I lost my hearing for a few minutes and went to La La Land until I came back to reality. Was lucky I didn't make it out of the building or people would have been freaked out." Our next story is, today I messed up by finding out I'm not truly a girl's girl. A bit long, but back in July, I, 22-year-old female, got a new coworker, 23-year-old male. I'm not the type to put myself out there, but I definitely look and, hey, I was looking. He was fine as freak. We immediately hit it off with friendly banter and continue to get to know each other throughout the next couple of months. Our work group is very social and very involved with one another, always making plans or lingering, as most of us live close to our job site. This means we have extra exposure in between working and living, so our work-life areas clash quite a lot. 2 of my coworkers are even dating. Anyways, this man and I are getting friendlier. He's giving me compliments left and right about how good I smell, my choice of style, my knowledge and humor, everything to make me feel a type of way. Of course, I play back minimally. I've never been one to make myself overly obvious. A week or so into October, a bomb drops that he apparently has a girlfriend? What the freak? So I reevaluate, distance myself from flirting, and continue just being friends and limiting my hanging around the workplace when it's just him, right? I don't want to cross any boundaries. Come Halloween, I throw a pregame before we all go to the same party together. He's invited, of course, and he shows up late with his girlfriend. No one would have had a problem with that if he had communicated he was going to be late and he had said that he was bringing his girlfriend. A lot of people may think it's only natural she's invited. However, this man never talked or talks about his girlfriend, and no one had ever met her, knew her name, or known anything else about her. It was a complete jump scare. But of course, I jumped in as host and started making her feel welcome. She actually had the coolest and most simple Medusa costume I think I've seen, and she looked great. I spoke to her for like 15 minutes or more when they came in and got to know her, and she seemed so cool and funny, but a little weary already of women, or was that me being competitive? Either way, she was welcomed, we all drank and drove to the party and had a great night. Flash forward, that's one of the few times I saw her. Only recently has she been popping into the workplace more, and every time she does, we all make sure to say hello or a greeting, but she low-key pays us no mind. Only there to speak with her boyfriend. I get it, but manners? Every time she comes by, my coworker gets annoyed or seems frustrated. One time he straight up told her, "You give me the ick." Even though he's been in a relationship all this time, he continues to flirt. I don't think I reciprocate. I have plenty of issues on my own, and he isn't even in my top 3 choices of men, but that doesn't mean he's not my friend. He's not fine, and we don't vibe. This brings us to last week. Last week, everyone was in a mood to hang out and drink like normal, except half the group bailed last minute. My coworker tends to go to a different home further away at times, and when we plan these nights, he stays closer. He stayed closer that night, so we decided to drink, smoke, and play some light video games for the night with one of my best friends. I had 2 beatboxes and was feeling nice before the blunt, and he had 6 IPAs, a rum and coke, and a blunt. My bestie is a lightweight and was low-key gone by 3/4 of the way in. She soon would fall asleep on the floor while we were smoking and watch some stoner show. Then it starts. His hand lingers as he's passing the blunt. He shifts his leg to just barely touch mine, where I can feel the heat of him through the fabric of my leggings. His hand falls when I grab the blunt, and his hand lays on my thigh right above my knee. He gives me the lightest squeeze as I slowly lean back up to take a drag off of the blunt he had just handed me, still feeling his hand lingering as I stare into his eyes that were gazing at me for any reaction. I stopped and asked him what he was doing. He said what he felt he wanted to do. He's been doing what's been on his mind since he met me. I reminded him of his girlfriend. I said, "You have a girlfriend." He followed that with, "I know, it's complicated. I know I want you." I asked him, "What am I supposed to say to that?" He says, "I don't know. We don't have to think about her." I say, "How can you not think about her right now?" He says, "All I can think about when you're around is you. I feel numb with her, but you bring me to life. You awaken my feelings." Awaken his feelings? So I told him, "I'm a girl's girl. I can't. Not when you have a girlfriend. That's not right. I'm not gonna be the person that makes you a cheater. I don't want to be. I don't want to be the other girl," or something right along those lines. But guys, he was getting closer, and then I diverted to my friend on the floor. I could not believe he was saying all of this with my best friend literally passed out right there on my floor. And so I start going to her. It's already almost 3 a.m. at this point, so definitely time to wrap up. I try to wake her up and she struggles to actually get up to go to her room, and that's when I know she was faking the whole time and heard everything. She always gets up to go to her room after a night, no matter how bad she's gotten, and she wasn't even that down bad. I picked her up to walk her to her place in my same building. Lucky, I know. And he was getting his stuff together to follow me. When we get back, he forgets something inside and then uses the bathroom. The show is still going and he asks if we can smoke another one and goes on to light it up. He gets closer and I'm not gone, but I'm much more receptive and you guys, he's so fine. I kept bringing up his girlfriend and he told me to stop. I told him we're gonna have to call it a night if he doesn't stop advancing. Meanwhile, I'm gone but coherent. His leg and mine are still touching, face palm. In one fell swoop, he gets closer and pulls a chair up right in front of him. This causes me to stumble just the slightest bit and I kind of stand to gain composure. He stands with me, grabs onto my waist to keep us both steady. This puts us right in front of each other, me shocked by what just happened, and him looking down into my eyes literally an inch away. He starts leaning in and I'm frozen between wanting to stop it and wanting to reciprocate. He asks why I'm not moving, his lips so close to mine that I can feel the air around his formation of words. He asks why I haven't backed away. He asks why I'm holding onto him back, why I haven't broken eye contact. I tell him that I'm not going to do anything, that this is his choice, that I'm not making it for him, my voice barely a whisper, as to not make so much movement to close the gap. Silence ensues for what had to be 15 to 20 seconds of us just staring at each other, just barely moving, our lips dancing a touchless dance before he made his decision and mine. It was like everything from the year built up, all of that tension releasing in a 3.5-hour session. I've never felt so secure being in front of a man like that, and let me tell you, this one low-key takes the cake. We finally stopped right as the sun was rising and fell asleep spooning, his girlfriend back on my mind as I start to realize what I had done. We wake up the next morning. It's casual, it's normal. My best friend doesn't know. Last she heard was me saying no and standing true to the girl's girl code. And I failed. Now it's been a few days, the next work week is coming, and I'm afraid, as I should be, I've never been this person. I always thought that I would be better, that I was better. Now I feel like crap because what if it were me? What if it were my partner who cheated on me? I hope to God she never finds out and that he simply breaks it off with her soon or eventually, not for my sake, strictly for hers. I don't think I'm anything to be jealous of, but I know comparing yourself to anyone hurts, especially when they were chosen over you. I broke one of my own rules and I'm just so disappointed in myself. And now I have no idea what the freak is about to happen. I feel like there's probably a pretty good discussion that's capable of being held here, just all about kind of consent. But you have to admit the way OP wrote this and described I never felt so good like that in front of a man before, 3.5-hour session of more detail than I even read aloud, doesn't really sound like OP actually regrets it all too much besides the girl's girl code kind of thing. So I guess I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I guess OP can feel bad about it in some ways, but does OP truly regret it? Rubicon commented, "Honestly, I'm less worried about you adhering to girl code for a person you don't even know than him stepping out on his relationship. It's not your responsibility to keep him faithful. If she were your friend, this would be different. But you will never be the reason a man cheats, though you may happen to be around when a man feels like cheating. If the only reason a man isn't cheating is the other girl is not interested, that's not a man you want to be with anyway. What I'm more concerned about is where you think this is going, since he obviously has no integrity and is a disloyal cheater and refuses to communicate with his current girlfriend that he's unhappy or moving on. He feels numb with her? So how about leave and stop wasting her time? This shows his character, so whatever you're hoping for with him, a relationship, etc., he will do the same to you. You'll be the one with him for years, and then he'll start pulling away and ghosting and taking longer and longer to respond. Then he'll cheat with someone else and discard you, and if you bring it up, he'll play victim and tell you that he felt numb with you. OP responded commenting, "That's the thing. I never thought of anything more with him because in my head, he was always off limits. I have other crushes I would chat with or try to build rapport with over him. He was just there as a coworker. I don't plan on more. I'm heavy on the you lose them the way you get them." Our next story is, today I messed up by accidentally congratulating an NBA player on the loss of their child. This happened many years ago, but I've never shared the story, and of course I won't share personal details, nor are they important to the story. I was excited one morning to see that a fellow parent and NBA player of our preschool was at morning drop-off. It was a rare occasion to see them or have a chat, as their wife was almost always present instead. They were always a very friendly family, and we had a healthy casual acquaintance that often brought short conversations in passing. As I greeted him, I suddenly remembered that I hadn't seen him since hearing the big news of their newest child being born. I said, "Hey, so-and-so, congratulations." Them nods with that obligatory pulled back smile we all know. Me thinking something seems off. Maybe I wasn't specific enough. I say, "So happy for you guys. The teacher, interrupting me and whispering into my ear, "Hey, they lost." My eyes go wide. That crazy sinking feeling hits me and I freeze. They check into attendance as I turn to the teacher with a look of terror and embarrassment, and the teacher, with a look of "you sad, stupid donkey," whispers to me, "They lost it last night." A physical reaction takes over, my eyes fill up, and I fight to keep my voice as stable as possible. I turn back to them and say, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." They say thanks and nod with that small obligatory smile again and begin walking away. I turn back to the teacher grasping my forehead, and the teacher says, "Are you okay?" with a confused look, insinuating that I may be overreacting. I said, "I can't believe I just congratulated him." The teacher laughs and says, "That's okay. I think he's just pretty sad." I said, "Well, I would think so." The teacher said, "Well, they did get pretty far, but that game last night was the end of the playoffs for them." ... At this moment, I experience a sensation that could best be described as a mental explosion, and I'm currently sitting in a tangled mess of misunderstanding. I have completely neglected the NBA playoffs, had no idea about the game, am completely off the hook for my blunder, and most importantly realized that their new baby is perfectly fine. Me, with tears in my cheeks, said, "So they didn't lose their baby?" The teacher replied, "What? No." I go silent and the teacher says, "Oh my God." I come crashing back to reality, sobbing while laughing somehow. I squeeze out the words, "I'm never talking again." You know, as an NBA player, I started scanning my memories of players who had babies famously like in the playoffs and like took a game off. I remember a good number of years back now, Fred VanVleet had a baby and he started like going Super Saiyan in the playoffs and it was like a big meme. I think Rudy Gobert had that happen recently, but I think they won that series. But also, of course, it doesn't have to be somebody who misses a game necessarily. R007R commented, "I have a 5-step plan for that situation. Step 1, find large rock. Step 2, lift large rock. Step 3, enter hole left by large rock. Step 4, pull rock back on top. Step 5, never speak again." So here's why I'm typing rather than speaking, and I'm doing so from a hole. My entire childhood, there was this one gorgeous girl named Audrey, and her mom was our Stacy's mom. She was absolutely drop-dead gorgeous, and she knew it. She was also gloriously single, so I'm sure all of us 12-year-olds had a chance. Fast forward a few years, and I'm hanging out at Audrey's house for some reason. I think it was chorus-related, alone. Her mom sat and talked to me for a good 20 minutes while we waited on Audrey. Ordinarily, you never ever assume a woman is pregnant. Like, ever. It's like never going into a woman's purse without permission. You just don't do it. This was like 1999, and even more true then. However, in my defense, she was obviously unambiguously pregnant. You know how some women are lucky and you just can't even tell that they're pregnant until they turn sideways because they don't gain any fat and carry it perfectly? That's how her mom was. Except she was not pregnant. Right when I got comfortable enough to ask about the due date, Audrey showed up looking gorgeous as always. I'm not sure how or why she knew what I was going to ask. I can only imagine that she saw my mouth opening wide enough to stick my foot in and blessedly decided to intervene. I lost the nerve to ask the question after being interrupted, and once we left, she confirmed that her mom wasn't pregnant. This was 25 years ago, and my ears are still burning from thinking about what I almost did. Our next story is, today I messed up by forgetting my dentist appointment and somehow making it worse. So I had a dentist appointment scheduled for this morning, totally forgot about it. No alarm, no reminder, nothing. I was blissfully unaware until I got a "you missed your appointment" text. Panic mode engaged. I called them immediately, apologizing profusely, expecting to just reschedule, but nope. They hit me with, "This is your second missed appointment, so there's a cancellation fee." At this point, I was already ticked off at myself for forgetting, but whatever. I accepted my fate, but then, because my brain was clearly not functioning today, I tried to joke about it, saying, "Well, at least I didn't forget to brush my teeth." Silence. Then the receptionist goes, "Well, based on your last cleaning, that's debatable. I have never been so verbally destroyed in my life." Moral of the story, don't forget about your dentist appointments, and definitely don't joke with a receptionist if you do. Happy Friday. If you're not a very responsible person, well, first of all, congratulations for actually having a doctor or dentist appointment scheduled. Second of all, if you want to start learning some more self-discipline, missing those appointments and getting hit with cancellation fees that you're not really all too aware even existed, it might help you be a little bit more punctual in the future. Our next story is, today I messed up by withholding my entire paycheck in federal taxes. Last month, I was on top of the game with filing my taxes early. I'm the primary earner in my family, but my spouse also has some occasional contract jobs. And for simplicity, we typically just use my withholding to cover our total taxes due. However, last year we had several irregular sources of income that brought in more money than usual, but which don't withhold taxes. Serving as election workers, participating in research studies, etc. We hadn't adjusted for these or made quarterly payments, and so ended up owing a couple $1,000s, and for the first time ever, a small amount of penalties and interest. Hence why I filed early to minimize those. The underwithholding was a mistake, but no biggie. So being a responsible citizen, I then went to the IRS calculator to figure out how to adjust my withholding for this year so that we get things right given our assumptions for this year. I get the numbers, pop them into the new W-4 in my employer's payroll system, feeling good. 2 weeks later, I notice that my paycheck hasn't hit my checking account and think, that's odd. So I log in to look at my pay stubs and see on the summary screen a long line of previous earnings, but then $0.00 for the most recent. After a mini freakout that perhaps I was Milton Wadhams, had been unknowingly laid off and someone fixed the glitch, I clicked for more details and found the issue. On top of the new $617 in federal tax, up from the previous $396.58, fine, there was also extra federal withholding of $4,364.11. So you know that new W-4? Turns out that instead of inserting $4,528 on line 4A, other income, I had entered it on line 4C, extra withholding, completely ignoring the big bolded warning that this was the additional tax I wanted to withhold each pay period. The kicker, not only did I give the federal government an interest-free loan this year, have to file a new W-4, triple-checked this time, and crimp my cash flow, will survive, but since there wasn't enough to cover the unnecessary withholding, my retirement savings contribution was suspended, meaning I didn't get my employer match either. While I can technically make up the missed contribution, I can't recover the $262 match, which compounded at 7% could be worth something like $1,000 by the time I retire in 20 years, all because of a data entry freak-up. I just want to be transparent here because the first half of what OP was writing about I feel so succinctly. Anybody that does YouTube, and specifically the money you make from YouTube and AdSense and whatnot, taxes aren't withheld from that. At the start of the year, Google will send you a 1099 MISC form, and it basically has one number on there, and that is completely what you've earned in the last year. And basically, to sum it all up, you're going to owe the government money when you file your taxes. There is no rebate to be had for people who get income solely from like AdSense. Wintergreen commented, "As an account, the Fed W-4 form is just crap. You basically need to get a paycheck before you can even begin to use the IRS site to calculate the proper withholdings. I have the employees just leave it back and we'll withhold the standard deduction, and once we have that first paycheck, we'll calculate it to their desired level. Always shoot for break even, you don't want a big refund, and you don't want to pay in." Our next story is, today I messed up by falling for a scam. Today I messed up. I don't want to go into all the details on what all went down, but yesterday I got a call from someone supposedly from Amazon customer service concerning a fraudulent purchase. which all sounded legitimate enough that I genuinely thought my identity had been stolen and been used to open accounts at several different banks. I was then transferred to someone at Wells Fargo who confirmed the identity theft, then transferred me to someone with the Federal Trade Commission, who instructed me to withdraw money and purchase Walmart money cards to legitimize assets from my legitimate bank accounts, which had not been compromised and still haven't. I was then told that a federal agent would show up at my house to verify the cards were legitimately purchased, and I had to give them the numbers over the phone to match. Like an idiot, but not without pushback, I reluctantly gave the numbers. At this point, I was starting to get suspicious and refused to use all my withdrawn cash for cards, saying, "I'll take chances, I have 4 cards, that should be enough to verify, blah blah blah." Well, never having had my identity stolen, I didn't know how the verification or recovery process worked. But after Googling a few things, I was able to pretty well sniff out that these were not legitimate government procedures for identity theft, and I was definitely being scammed. I immediately went back to Walmart to try to get the cards canceled. Too late. The money was gone and I was out $2,000. Though the scammers tried to get $7,000, so I'm glad I stopped there. The customer service lady suggested calling the customer service number on the cards, so I did and filed a fraud claim. It got resolved, but all they could recover was 11 freaking cents. So I'll get back 11 cents of $2,000 of stolen money. I feel like such a goddamn idiot. I thought I was smarter than this. I felt so ashamed to tell my wife about it and called myself an idiot. A freaking idiot. A stupid freaking brain-dead moron everything. Luckily, she was very supportive. I'm not telling my family for any reason, nor is she telling hers, but it doesn't make me feel like any less of the freaking moron that I feel like now. This is just a rant now, I know it is. I'm not expecting sympathy from anyone. I don't deserve it for a freak up I made. This just seemed like a good place to rant to people that don't know me or can judge me face to face off of that. Yeah, OP definitely got open and shut, clear-cut scammed. If anybody doesn't know, there's not going to be any kind of recovery or security or any kind of process that's going to require you to withdraw anything from your bank. And if there is, you better have been shown that FBI credential in person beforehand before you did whatever sting operation you're doing. Be rest assured, people, there is never going to be any kind of security check that requires you to buy any kind of gift card or iTunes cards or anything like that. Canavatuolo420 commented, "Check out the following YouTube channels, Pleasant Green and Kit Boga. You were likely the victim of an Indian/Nigerian scam. It's easy making fun of you like some people are doing here, but I don't see any use to doing that. For future reference, Amazon and all of the other entities you mentioned in your post will never call you. You'll likely either get a letter in your mail or an email instructing you to log into your account and check your notifications. Another note when it comes to emails, if an email tells you someone stole your account and tells you to click a link and fix the issue, do not click the link. Go on the actual website and log in like you usually would. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, but do watch the videos of the channels I linked, as they expose most of the scams that go around the internet. Edit, and of course, no legitimate business deals in Walmart gift cards, or gift cards of any sorts. Our next story is, today I messed up by laughing at my date for being a mime and having a dad who lives in Iraq. I know this title is all over the place, but it was a disaster of a date, and I feel both parts play a pivotal role in why. Today I got lunch with a girl that my friend set me up with. I was told that she was cute, sweet, and single. I was not given any more information about who this person was, and to be honest, I didn't really care. I was just excited to go on a date with someone. My friend gave her my number, and she texted me to set a date and time to meet up. We decided to get lunch today. She was very cute and very sweet, a bit soft-spoken, but exuded confidence. We started telling each other about ourselves, and the first 15 minutes or so goes great. We were laughing and joking and having a great time, until she told me that when she was a kid, she wanted to be a mime, and would often dress up in the whole getup and act like a mime. I don't know about you guys, but that struck me as being objectively kind of funny. Like, I would never judge anyone for being a mime, but it's a little bit silly. And I thought I was being told so I could laugh. Well, I started laughing and she immediately went straight-faced. I didn't think she was actually upset though. Her expression seemed exaggerated for comedic purposes, and I thought she was pretending to be upset so I could laugh at her. It sounds stupid and really douchey, but at the time it just seemed like she wasn't really bothered, and we had kinda teased each other a bit before this point. I dug the hole even deeper by standing up and doing the invisible box thing. Mind you, we're in a public cafe. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea. I just thought she would start laughing or something since, again, I thought she was purposefully pretending to be upset. She started looking around and was visibly embarrassed, and that's when I realized she was actually unhappy with me laughing about her being a mime. I sat down and apologized profusely, and she just kind of nodded and said it's fine. I really felt bad and honestly just kind of embarrassed. I think she realized and started to try and comfort me, and I said I deserved to be embarrassed because what the heck was that? We kind of started to laugh at how absurd the situation was, and somehow we managed to get back to a conversation that wasn't super awkward. I asked her where she was from or where her parents were from. I could tell English was her first language, but she had a slight accent. She said her mom is Polish, and that's where her accent is from. And then she started talking about her mom and how she's a great woman and raised her and her 2 brothers, and she specifically said that her mom taught her everything. Immediately after that, she said, "And my dad lives in Iraq," and I laughed. You might be confused why I laughed. I know she sure was. She said, "Why is that funny?" I said, "You said your dad lives in Iraq. That's funny." She says, "How?" I say, "Obviously he doesn't live in Iraq. I thought you were making a joke." She says, "He absolutely can, and he does. My mom raised us on her own." I said, "I'm sorry, I'm not trying to insult you or your mom. I just don't see how it's possible how he lives in Iraq. I thought you meant like he lives under a rock." She says, "What the heck are you talking about?" I said, "Your dad doesn't live in Iraq. You were joking, right?" She excused herself after that and didn't say anything else to me. I was scratching my head wondering what I did wrong until later when I told my brother and he was able to enlighten me to how much of an idiot I am. Her dad lives in Iraq, which I have always pronounced and heard pronounced as Iraq, not Iraq. I thought she was saying her dad lives in a freaking rock, which would obviously not be possible, and why I was so confused that she was upset at me for laughing. Especially since she just said her mom taught her everything, so I thought she was saying like, my silly dad doesn't know anything. He doesn't just live under a rock, he lives in a rock. But now I just feel like a jerk for laughing at her and practically calling her a liar when she said her dad abandoned her. I tried texting her, but I think she blocked my number. I'm gonna try to get my friend to tell her at work that I'm not the biggest jerk in the world, just maybe the biggest idiot. I'm really sorry to OP, I really don't want to put OP down, but oh man. If I was on the first date with somebody and they had just barely recovered from essentially mocking my childhood interests or dreams, and followed that up immediately by not understanding what you meant by saying my father lives on a rock, it almost like creates that clear projection of, if I spent the rest of my life with this person, would I be able to tolerate time and time again experiences like this popping up? Probably not. I'd probably get a little irritated, I'm sorry. Our next story is, today I messed up. I bought a $300 shower head for the trash can. Today I feel like peeling the skin off my face. Literally, that's how much I freaked up. So I recently went on a trip to Japan. It was a huge deal for me because it wasn't easy to go. While I was there, I had this rare moment of wanting to indulge in extreme luxury, something I never do, and I decided, you know what? Showers are an important part of the day. I deserve this, so I bought a $300 shower head. The technology was super advanced. It felt like peak luxury, and for once, I wanted to really treat myself. Fast forward to today, I was swapping out the old shower head, but the new one wouldn't fit because a piece inside was broken. No big deal, I figured I would buy a replacement part, but I kept putting it off. First, I told myself that I would go another day, and then that day came and I couldn't go. Eventually, after a few days, I finally went out to buy it. Here's where it all went to heck. I had some random stuff I wanted to throw out, some torn pants, other junk, so I tossed them aside. At some point, I put the shower head down with everything thinking, I'll move it later, but I didn't. I forgot. And then, like an absolute idiot, not really looking, I took everything out and threw it all away. And that's it. I basically flushed $300 down the toilet. Just gone. I don't even know what to say. Have you ever messed up so badly that you just sit there, staring into the void, questioning everything? Because that's where I'm at. You know, I feel like I've had that exact thing before, but I'm actually really struggling to figure out like a clear-cut example. I feel like I've had an experience like that when I was like haphazardly holding something like I knew I really could have like had a better grip, and then surprise, surprise, whatever I was holding slipped out of my hand and made a huge mess or whatever. Like I look down at it and it's like just this big giant splatter on the floor, and I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I not just secure the thing? You know what? I've seen Twitch streamers who like get food prepared for them. There's a really funny popular one from a streamer called Tyler1 where he had like chicken parm and he holds it up to the camera and he's like, look guys, look what my wife made for me or whatever. And it just slides right off the plate and just splats right over his keyboard and system and whatnot. That is a prime moment to just stare into the void and question everything. Royra Wadorit commented, I thought maybe there was going to be a major standard difference, such as the threading and that he couldn't find a way to connect the two standards. I've definitely thrown away some things I didn't mean to, although I can't think of a good example. Tachycardic IVU commented, that's where I thought this was going to, that somehow Japanese and non-Japanese showerheads are incompatible. Wouldn't be surprised given the electronics and plug situation, though that has been better over the last few years. Our next story is, today I messed up by trying to hold my breath underwater like a pro and passing out in the bath while my kid watched. My wife was working last weekend, so with 2 kids, it was a busy end of the week for me. Today, I finally had a moment of peace and decided to take a bath. My 2-year-old was napping and my 8-year-old was busy playing Minecraft, so I thought, perfect, some alone time. Of course, alone time as a parent is a myth, and my oldest kept popping in and out to ask me random questions like, why are you having a bath? Or, why are you lying in the bath? At some point I got bored and decided to see how long I could hold my breath underwater. I usually manage around 100 seconds, and I used to be able to do over 2 minutes. I asked my son if he could time me because Dad is going to hold his breath for 2 minutes like he used to. To be smart, I hyperventilated a bit beforehand like freedivers do. I took some deep, rapid breaths to oxygenate myself, heard my son laughing at me, and then went under. Next thing I knew, I was being yanked out of the water by my 8-year-old coughing and gasping like a fish on land. Turns out I had passed out. My son later told me that at around 90 seconds in, he started poking me because he didn't want me to make it. When I didn't respond, he realized something was wrong and actually dragged me up and out. After Googling what happened, I learned that hyperventilating before holding your breath is actually really dangerous because it tricks your body into not realizing it needs air. So instead of feeling the urge to breathe, I just blacked out. My son spent the rest of the day reenacting the scene for fun, while my wife, who thinks I'm an idiot for doing that, insisted I should visit the GP tomorrow to make sure that there's no underlying reason I passed out. But honestly, I'm just lucky my kid was there. Otherwise, I might have become the dumbest Darwin Award nominee of the year. You know, I was dumb and younger, and sometimes when I would have a bath, I would, for fun, see how long I could hold my breath. And I realized sometime later how extremely dumb and dangerous that was, because I'm assuming I didn't tell anybody I was going to go take a bath, but I was particularly proud of being able to get over a minute at the time. I'm still here, at least. I won't do it again, I promise. Golic commented, so about that hyperventilating thing, you aren't so much raising your O2 levels, resting, that's around 95%, but dropping your CO2 levels. And it's the CO2 levels that make your body want to go up for air. So by lowering CO2, you can black out from low O2 before CO2 gets high enough to force you up for air. As you discovered, it's kind of dangerous to do. OP replied commenting, so you're basically tricking your brain and removing the cue that tells your body to get some air? Holy. Hopefully I can use this to at least ensure my kid won't do it. Our next story is, today I messed up by ignoring a crackling headphone and blessing the bus with my taste in music. I listen to music when catching the bus. Headphones occasionally crackle or fail on one side. I don't mind listening to crackling headphones for a while until they permanently fail. I bought a budget phone. It was decent enough but had a weird QA issue. The headphone port was a bit oversized, which caused some headphones to not fit tightly and crackle as a result. Another weird software QA issue with the phone was that if the headphone connection was loose and crackling, then it would play music through both headphones and speaker at the same time. I only noticed this when I removed my headphones after stepping off the bus and heard the exact same music playing through the speakers. I got a few weird looks on the bus that trip. I blessed the bus with my taste in music. I Wanna Be Famous, Total Drama Island, Ed, Ed and Eddie theme song, Coconut Mall, Super Mario Kart Wii, All My Exes Live in Texas, Slowed Reverb, Blame Canada, South Park, Frosty the Snowman, Gene Autry, Roses, Outcast. OP really ran the full gamut here, didn't they? Ed, Ed and Eddie, Blame Canada, Roses really smell like. Bicentennial Douche commented, I remember this one guy on the commuter train who sat down, put on these big high-end headphones but forgot to plug them in. Then he put on some jazz on his phone and closed his eyes. After 15 seconds, I poked him and pointed out that his headphones are not plugged in. He was pretty embarrassed. I didn't ask him what's the point of having expensive headphones if he can't tell the difference between them and the speaker in his phone. Our next story is, today I messed up by giving my 21-year-old male, 8-year-old sister a haircut while my parents went on vacation. Mandatory didn't happen today. It actually happened 1 year ago today. Last year, my 21-year-old male parents wanted to take a trip around Europe for a week, and I was left to babysit my 8-year-old sister, Shayla, and my 17-year-old sister, Lisa. My older sister, 33-year-old female, was with us for the first 2 days, and then I was alone with Shayla and Lisa for the next 6 days. I was like a bad parent because I really just let Shayla do whatever she wanted and we went wild. I took her to an amusement park, let her stay up way past her bedtime, skipped 1 day of school, ate too many snacks. It wasn't anything detrimental, I just brought her rebellious side out. Then Lisa cut her hair at home and got those fringe hairstyles. I don't know haircut terminology. It looked really cool, and Shayla was obsessed with it and wanted to do it too. I thought, screw it. So I let Lisa cut Shayla's hair and give her a fringe. It went south, and halfway through, Lisa handed me the scissors, saying she's messed up. Again, I thought, screw it. I've cut hair in lockdown, and decided to finish the haircut. I messed it up more. At the time, Lisa and I were laughing because it was starting to look really bad. We were horrible siblings for that, and I completely acknowledge it. At one point, Lisa was laughing hysterically because I made an Edna joke, and Shayla got off the chair to look in the mirror. I thought she would be upset, but didn't realize how badly this would affect her. Tears started trickling down her face, and with her voice breaking, she said under her breath, "I look so ugly." Her saying that was one of those glass-shattering moments for me. I instantly realized how big of a freak-up I did. Up until then, I didn't even consider how this would ruin her confidence. I didn't know that kids had self-esteem, if that makes any sense. It's such a basic thing. Everyone has it, but I didn't even care to think about hers. I hugged her, tried consoling her, but she was crying a lot. I tried thinking on my feet, and I told her I actually had a surprise for her. This was a prank, and I'd booked an appointment at an expensive hairdresser's who would give her the best haircut ever. Under her vast amount of tears, there was some curiosity, and after a couple of minutes, she started smiling gleefully, thinking this was all supposed to happen. She put on a cap, and we got on the train to go towards the central part of the city. On the way, I searched for the hairdressers with the highest ratings and accepted walk-ins. I told the hairdressers what happened on the side, and to fix her hair somehow. About 2 hours later, her haircut was done, and the hairdresser did an incredible job. She did all kinds of things, gave her a fringe and slightly dyed the tips. I don't even know what the rest of the stuff was, but it looked amazing. Shayla was really happy, and I got her ice cream and then took her home. The haircut cost me half my savings too, but it was worth it, and I was really grateful to the hairdresser. That night, I cried a lot in the shower because I felt like the worst person in the world. That day taught me a very valuable lesson, and I'm never in my life going to play around with a kid's confidence for craps and giggles. I did an insensitive, stupid thing, and I still feel a pit in my stomach when I replay her saying, "I look so ugly." Never again. Honestly, I feel like most of us growing up had some kind of experience similar to that where we had our hair just utterly butchered. At least anybody that had like home haircuts. I remember being 7, 8, 9 years old. I was blessed with just an incredible 5 head. And it wasn't even like a buzz cut, but they just cut it too short in the front. So I just felt like it looked so stupid and I was so dismayed and upset and crying. They were like, "It'll grow back." I was like, "Yeah, but it's not gonna grow back now." Distracted House Witch commented, "When I was 10, my mom butchered my hair because she refused to take me to a salon to get it cut. It was awful and she just shrugged and sent me to school. I was bullied for years because of that haircut." You're a great sibling. It's really easy to make mistakes when you're responsible for kids. What's important is how you handle it and make it right for them. You took a big mistake and turned it into something that's probably a pretty good memory for your sister. Our next story is, today I messed up by using dishwashing liquid for washing vegetables. It's dangerous. So for context, last year I was in the ICU for almost a month and nearly died from leptospirosis, which I contracted from the pet rats I used to have. So stupid me and my trauma has been washing vegetables with dishwashing liquid. Last night, some got inside the vegetables used for my shakshuka, and I ended up in the bathroom trying to vomit but unable to, with a stomach ache from the depths of Hades, and was ready to call 911. Thankfully, it passed relatively quickly because there were residues in the vegetables after they were rinsed, but even those can cause havoc in the body. And stupid me also didn't research the proper way to clean veggies and thought that it would help in at least removing bacteria. Turns out it doesn't do freaking crap, and I almost ended up in the ER. Just sharing my story and hoping that it'll serve as a word of caution for anyone who does such foolishness. Rinsing the vegetables with fresh water or using a special vegetable cleaning solution is enough. I'm assuming when OP says dishwashing liquid, I'm assuming something similar to like Dawn. And I just have to say, for all the commercials they put out there of like baby ducks in the sink being washed with Dawn, I know that isn't necessarily like a beaming advertisement to say, it's okay to drink Dawn too, but it does kind of surprise me that the residual amounts that would have been from cleaning those vegetables would result in enough to be almost ER worthy. Murdub commented, "I've avoided such an issue for 40 years by simply never eating vegetables. Glad to see my strategy to stay healthy has been paying off. Sorry about your stomach. Most veggies are fine with a good rinse. Leafy things can go for a quick dip in a water-vinegar mix." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Redditor mess-up story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.